Hello everyone and welcome to I'm Currently In's podcast. In this video, I will be talking about the 5 things that characterize Cubans. The Cuban has a unique and special way of being, and therefore we will be analyzing those greetings, manners, and ways that identifies us in the world. So guys, let's begin. Even for Cubans themselves, because of the forced coexistence between the man and his environment, neutralize emotions. It is difficult to marvel at those habits and customs that characterize us so much around the world. It's not until you interact with someone from another land that you notice what makes us so unique, as well as what unites us beyond our country, language, or belief. So the number one are the greetings. The Cuban has a very peculiar way of greeting. In our nature is physical contact and interaction. So if you meet a Cuban, you know it is most likely that they will be super effusive, give you kisses on the cheeks, and even hug. It is part of the idiosyncrasy, a very jovial and familiar treatment, which, even for my taste, is too intense. If it's someone you don't know, of course. The classic expression, coño, hacer, when you meet them on the street, represents that joy and surprise at running into you, followed by the other expression, que hola, que bolero, or que hay chama, equivalent to how are you. All of this is in a more informal norm, a street and colloquial slang. This doesn't mean that there is the behavior of each and every one of the Cubans in every context. You will never think of speaking like this to your teacher at school unless you are completely crazy and you're looking for attention. So the number two, drinking a lot of coffee and offering as a courtesy to the visitors. I dare to say, guys, that this is even more Cuban than the greeting, because there is no Cuban house that doesn't try to receive its visitors with a cup of coffee. The Cuban is characterized by being a good host, and if they receive a good visitor at home, they will always try to leave a good impression. For this, the protocol of the glass of water and then a cup of coffee cannot be missing. If the coffee is the one that corresponds to the monthly allocation, they will always express their apologies and make some comments and laugh about its poor quality. The most common is to drink the classic espresso, very strong, without filling the cup completely, nothing like the quantities consumed in the United States, for example, where they mix it with water. For the Cuban, that is a crime. It even took a long time for the Cubans to understand the essence of the Frappuccino. I still remember my dad looking at me so weird and saying, "Do you like that cold coffee?" And despite the fact that Cuba is an eternal summer, Cuban coffee is taken intense and very hot. In the west of the country, it is consumed with much less sugar than in the east, and the methods for sweetening depend on a lot on what house has. Personally, I love brown sugar to sweeten as well as sugar cane, but the latter is more exotic and can only be found in restaurants or cafeterias. Another coffee that Cubans enjoy is the cortadito. Nothing like a good cortadito in the afternoon while you feel the breeze and read the book. The frequency of consumption is quite high, especially for smokers who make a kind of ritual when smoking their cigar and drinking coffee. The number three, the contrast of flavors in food. The Cuban does not conceive of having only one flavor in their food. They need contrast that make the experience more appetizing. That's why it's not difficult to notice that most of the emblematic Cuban dishes have that sweet point in one way or another. Accompanying the food with a banana, either as a natural fruit or cut into slices and then fried in oil, is one of the most common ways. The sweet potato is another food that is cooked with sugar and dry wine and then seasoned with a syrup. Even traditional recipes are directly added with a touch of sweetness, such as the black beans, for example. And when you tell someone, it's super funny, because when you tell someone from Colombia that we put a lot of sugar in our beans because we like that sweetness, they are perplexed because that is not how they prepare it. There is no more Cuban dish than white rice with a fried egg and bananas. Just thinking about it, it takes me back to my childhood, and it's magnificent without a doubt. Coming home from school at noon and my grandmother having lunch ready, soaking the pieces of banana in the yolk of the egg was simply incredible, guys. You can also find it in desserts. Cubans usually accompany guava or mango jams with a slice of cheese. It will be like a kind of tropical cheesecake, and believe me, guys, it's delicious. Our guava shells with cheese, sweet papaya with cheese. In short, there are many combinations of sweets made with fruits and accompanied with cheese. The Cubans need that authentic contrast to truly enjoy the food. The number 4 is the presence of faith. The Cuban people are very religious. Whether a Catholic or Yoruba religion, the vast majority of the Cuban population is religious and has image of deities that they worship. It is very common to arrive at Cuban homes and find allegorical religious items to their saint, altars, and candles. For a specific example, many times when you arrive at home, you will find behind the door on the floor a kind of ceramic plate with a stone, shell, or dry coconut. This stone will have placed some shells that symbolize like a face with points and feathers in red and black colors. Also, inside the pot, you will find offerings such as candy, toys for children, and money. This representation is of the deity of Elewa, belonging to the Yoruba religion, and it's considered the beginning and the end, birth and death, good and evil, something like the Yoruba yin yang. And it's located behind the door because this is where it resides, marking the border between two worlds, the internal and the external world, protecting the ile, which means home, of whoever possesses it. This is just one example of thousands that exist. Cubans are very spiritual, and religion is part of the everyday life, whether in dance, music, painting, or cinema. And number 5, although there are many more, our sayings and ways to speak. In Cuba, we speak Spanish, but not the Spanish you will hear in Spain or in other Spanish-speaking country. Cuban Spanish is unique and unrepeatable, and even within the country, there are expressions that are exclusive to each region. That is why our way of speaking is one of our characteristic elements. And we have loans from various origins, indigenous, African, English, that we borrowed from everywhere to form our own variety. Of the most similar to Cuban Spanish, because they belong to the same region, are the Spanish spoken in Puerto Rico and the one spoken in the Dominican Republic. The contact of so many diverse languages, including those from the Middle East, result in what we have today. We use, for example, anglicisms daily, such as cake, marketing, show, ticket, and they are part of our daily life. Say it in a very particular way because they do not respond to their original form. So while normally you will say cake, Cubans will say it more like K, without emphasizing the last syllable so much. Similarly, due to the new needs that we were arising, it was necessary to designate a word to a group of a set of meanings. That is why congri was designated to refer to white rice cooked with black beans. Another element that distinguishes Cuban norms is that ability to shorten and modify pronunciations. So futingo will be the term designated to refer to the first cars that rolled through Cuba, specifically the Model T manufactured by the Ford Motor Company that were brought to Cuba in 1980. The advertising they use for this model has the slogan, "Foot in Go." And for Cubans, that sounds like futingo, which later became fotingo. This word is also used in a more humorous way to refer to a woman's scarf, if you know what I mean. Anyway, guys, this is extremely broad, devoting only one podcast to each of these elements, and to many others that we will talk about later will take hours and hours. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I love bringing you these types of cultural and language questions because I love them so much. And the research process for me is very enjoyable, trust me. So remember that the most important thing about all of this is to enjoy the country and its people. Our mission, guys, is for you to vibe in the same frequency and feel the Cuban culture during your visit. So if you're looking for high quality service and cultural trips to Cuba, visit our website I'm currently in, where we provide luxury and cultural services so you can truly enjoy Cuba in comfort. Feel free to check it out using the links below. And remember, guys, to like if you enjoy it, of course. Leave us your opinion and follow us for more content about Cuba. I am Gabby, and this was I'm Currently In. As Alex says, chao pescado y a la vuelta picadillo. Bye bye.